of October 2025, Taylor Swift took out her big album gun that shoots albums and blasted us with another one.
This is my brand new album.
This was her 12th album, and it was met with a strong response of broad distaste, extending far past her critics and those neutral to her, and this time deep into the heart of her biggest fans.
I'm quite disappointed in this album. I had high hopes and expectations because Taylor set the bar so high. But you know, life is truly all about ebbs and flows, highs and lows. When we go high, we have to go low.
Yes, even the Swifties have had enough. So let's figure out what the hell is going on with the life of a showgirl.
The tea is crazy tonight, Travis.
Yes.
Let's assess, as we must, the songs.
Track 1, The Fate of Ophelia.
The album opens with its lead single, the bouncy, brooding synth-pop track, The Fate of Ophelia.
I heard you calling on the megaphone. You wanna see me all alone.
Now, I'm a fan of a beefy, bassy synth. You know, I'm a construction time again type woman. And I like that little glittering sound that happens. Sweet little chimes that encroach on the gloom of it all and add that little sparkle of hope. It reminds me a little bit of the layered, creepy, trapped in a cave sound of Suzanne Sonfur's The Silicon Veil. This, I thought, was promising, and I began to imagine what the theming, that is, the aesthetic of show business glamour atop its sinister underbelly, might bring to it. Those relentless bassy synths and the wary but gleeful lyrics communicate the deliciousness of a dreamy, dangerous fantasy in a way that I think plays to Taylor's strengths.
Love was a cold bed.
She has plenty of songs about the passionate bubbling of secrets, like Dress, a song about the insane, maddening strength of clandestine desire.
There's an indentation in the shape of you.
Or Wildest Dreams, a song about desperately craving a beautiful, romantic image to linger in the mind of your former partner long after a relationship has ended.
See me in hindsight, tangled up you all night, burning inside.
Yeah, you know, and probably some other ones too. The two top comments on the latter's music video are, "This song makes me cry because it reminds me of when my imaginary boyfriend broke up with me," and "I swear the song makes me fantasize about relationships I've never had." She gets at this desperate, crazed, all-consuming yearning in such a keen way in her best work.
Dreaming about the day when you wake up and find that what you're looking for has been here the whole time.
She has this great sense of losing yourself to fantasy, and I think that's like the number one thing that kind of made her delightful in 2008.
Here's a reason for the teardrops on my guitar.
That, and you know, the country spirit.
I'm such a country dude. I like to have an engine wherever I go.
Her Tumblr girl dreamer spirit is everything, and this quality is at its strongest point on The Life of a Showgirl right here.
Took me out of my grave and saved my heart from the fate of Ophelia.
You know, I'm just like Ophelia, I'm gonna drown, I'm gonna be surrounded by flowers, I'm gonna kill myself, it's gonna be awesome, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. However, let's contrast for a moment The Fate of Ophelia with Love Story. When Love Story came out in 2008, I liked its sort of childlike innocence. I think it's fun to write a reimagined Romeo and Juliet narrative where Romeo just goes, "Don't even worry about it. I respected your dad and he gave me the okay." Like, there's something iconically starry-eyed and innocent about having that idea because you are Taylor Swift and you're a teenager and you want to go medieval princess mode and you're saying, why not a happy ending, Mr. Shakespeare? I feel like they had such promise and they were so crazy for each other, and if that had just gone a little bit differently, it could have been the best love story ever told. And it is one of the best love stories ever told, but it's a tragedy. I thought, why can't you make it a happy ending and put a key change in the song and turn it into a marriage proposal? There's just something real about that. There's something childlike and beautiful about that in all its kind of crunchy silliness. That sort of innocent, wide-eyed feel is the major fixture of her early music, this cute, naive, rosy view of a romantic world.
This is what the world looks like
in my mind. There's a pony. We're feeding a horse and petting it.
Taylor Swift is just a little teenage girl just like me. And that stood out in country. Here was an interpretation of the country music canon with its searing emotional lows and its soaring romantic bliss, but through the diaristic, confessional lens of a teenage girl noodling around in her room and commiserating with her friends.
When I was making the rounds, first trying to get a record deal, the thing that I heard the most is the only people that listen to country music on country radio are 35-year-old females. And I just kept thinking, that can't be true.
Love Story is less about Shakespeare's story and what we think about it, and more about Taylor Swift liking a boy that her parents didn't approve of.
And then, you take me getting mad at my parents because they didn't want me to date this dude when I was like 17, and I threw a fit and ran to my room and wrote a song on my bedroom floor called Love Story.
And using the fantasy world of classic literature to imagine, what if I simply got what I wanted anyway, and it all worked out? It's so perfectly teenage. I mean, how many times have we heard young people ask of Romeo and Juliet, why did they do that? Bit stupid, innit? The Fate of Ophelia is a similar wish fulfillment fantasy crawling through the skeleton of a Shakespeare character, but where Love Story paints a clear narrative and really centers on the Romeo and Juliet story and how we might play with it, Ophelia is more of a brief invocation, a talisman of female suffering.
Ophelia lived in fantasy.
Yes, she went fucked up crazy in Hamlet because of the mounting grief of a life populated by cruelty and corruption and death, but here she is, a distant whisper, a little ghost, collected into a list of fairy tale iconography. It's interesting because, like Love Story, it's straightforward wish fulfillment stuff, but Love Story is written from the perspective of dreaming of everything working out beautifully, and the references to Romeo and Juliet, the Scarlet Letter, and indeed the general concept of princes and princesses evoke a mishmash of dreamscape storytelling. Characters and tales shift into each other like the vague figures in your dreams. Juliet, Capulet, and Hester Prynne, and all fairy tale princesses alike. One big woman blob. The Fate of Ophelia is written from the more mundane perspective of having achieved that dream in reality, and so its similar muddled references to Ophelia and either Rapunzel or possibly our beloved Princess Fiona don't paint that same image of shifting, impermanent, oscillating fantasy. In a way, it's the antithesis to Love Story, in that it looks back from a place of apparent safety upon a mass of hideous, traumatic memories. Romance is the purported savior here, but it's also the horrible curse. It's looking back on a misery that, it seems, Taylor doesn't want to think about too much. This makes the song feel smaller, more closed in, and in this way it feels odd to invoke Ophelia, a mascot of pure suffering, sure, a mascot of total inability to process or move on from grief, also sure, but she's more. She's something else. This is an ostensibly happy song, a song about being rescued by your beautiful dream love come to get you at last, like Shrek. Yet Ophelia is a character so tragic that she can't be discarded or escaped from. On the bridge, Taylor sings, "'Tis locked inside my memory, and only you possess the key." This is a paraphrased quote from Hamlet. Ophelia says this to Laertes after he warns her that Hamlet's love may be fickle.
For Hamlet, and the trifling of his favour, hold it a fashion, and a toy in blood.
'Tis in my memory locked, and you yourself shall keep the key of it.
This invocation of this dire warning and the significance of its memory reveal that while The Fate of Ophelia is a song about a blissful escape from endless pain, it's a song that lingers on memory, that holds tight the juicy, awful grudges and bitternesses that still remain. Yet ultimately, there is no reckoning with the grief. The answer to the dark sludge of woman pain is, as it turns out, another guy. When Ophelia dies, Gertrude says, "Her clothes spread wide and mermaid-like, a while they bore her up, which time she chanted snatches of old lords, as one incapable of her own distress, or like a creature native and endued unto that element." In her madness, at least at this moment, she is incapable of suffering any longer, or so Gertrude says. The twin tragedy and beauty of this awful moment is the kind of emotional world that Taylor Swift often enters in her work. There is a deliciousness to her underbelly of doomed and rotten romance.
That unmatched form and feature of blown youth, blasted with ecstasy.
And the song allows itself to indulge in that, but then breaks away.
The venom stole her sanity, and if you'd never call for me.
We we have to turn away from that. Right now, it cries, my husband's here. I think this is one of the strongest songs on the album, but already there's the sense that her lyrics are not really settled. There's a lack of specificity that haunts the album, an almost disinterested feel across the whole thing. I sat alone in my tower, you were just honing your powers. It doesn't feel like a self-aware commentary on a woman hoping for a savior as much as it feels like genuine cope. No, seriously, he was honing his powers, and I'm not drowning. Just because I'm all wet doesn't mean I'm drowning. Keys are a bit of a lyrical theme on this album, but they're not always unlocking memories. Sometimes they're unlocking vaginas. Don't worry about that for now.
Track 2, Elizabeth Taylor.
Okay.
You know who Elizabeth Taylor is?
The second song is similarly referential. This one is called
Elizabeth Taylor.
Elizabeth Taylor, actually starting out with Elizabeth Taylor, like literally made me crack up.
It feels like a companion to the Fate of Ophelia in that both songs have this dark, brooding musical style. Both songs are about how you finally have an epic man, and both songs reference a tragic love figure of sorts.
They say I'm bad news, I just say thanks.
Now, I do think we are standing on the precipice of the album's first baby steps into cringe. The way she says, Elizabeth Taylor, just feels like a lot.
This one's called Elizabeth Taylor. Let's see.
Elizabeth Taylor.
She's done it again.
And she's clearly going for a bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing.
I would trade the Cartier for someone to trust. Just kidding.
A little bit ironized, a little bit, she's so crazy.
Oftentimes it doesn't feel so glamorous to be me.
Taylor has a hard time pulling this semi-ironized thing off because she tends to be so heart-on-sleeve sincere.
Maybe I got mine, but you'll all get yours.
Again, some of her best songs, and I know I'm outing myself as someone who leans towards early Taylor here, are the ones that have this earnest, innocent sincerity. Whether in a more playful song, like her very first single, Tim McGraw.
When you think Tim McGraw, I hope you think my favorite song.
Or in a more Lifetime-esque exploration of the romantic missteps of her high school best friend.
'Cause when you're 15, somebody tells you they love you, you gotta believe them.
Taylor's willingness to completely wear her heart on her sleeve gives such a sense of specificity and candor to her work.
I think she is this lyrical and expressive person who has to translate all of her life experiences into rhyme and into music.
You know, she's airing it out.
You're supposed to be afraid of being vulnerable, and you're supposed to be afraid of giving out personal information and details in your songs, but I just don't see how that's bad.
Not so in a more distant adult Taylor, who, while still very keen to share herself, has long outgrown her super chirpy, uninhibited teen persona, but we still have such a clear sense of her personality and the things that get under her skin, to the point that her efforts to be cool or mysterious or vampy can feel too transparent, too cloying. In Miss Americana, her 2020 documentary, she talks about Kanye's 2009 VMAs stage interruption as an inflection point and catalyst for a kind of mad barrage of career decisions, not least the production of the ambitious 1989 album, entering into stadium madness and becoming the stadium beast, and then the production of Reputation after a long and weird resurgence of Kanye going evil mode with bizarre derogatory lyrics about her, the strange depiction of her as a sex doll in his music video, and an extended smear campaign which resulted in thousands of tweets taking Kanye's side.
Hashtag Taylor Swift is over party was the #1 trend on Twitter worldwide. Do you know how many people have to be tweeting that they hate you for that to happen?
You know, that was all pretty crazy. A lot of the public perception of her following both of these Kanye interludes was that she was a whiner and needed to move on, or that she was a straightforward liar. While the second incident was a really intense escalation on Kanye's part into intense misogynistic humiliation and degradation through literally making a naked effigy of her, and it worked no less, the first is interesting because while it was a shocking moment and, you know, you can imagine being upset by it, it was in a way small. Everyone was more or less on Taylor's side. Obama said Kanye was a jackass.
He's a jackass.
No, come on, guys. Cut the president some slack.
There was an outpouring of sympathy, partly because this was a 19-year-old, and look how stunned she was.
I wish you would come take one of my awards so I could black his eye. You shouldn't even worry about me. Pink was finna get to him.
You said he is the biggest blank on the earth.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, cracks appeared. She was clearly affected by this initial incident for quite some time, performed a strange, sad song written to Kanye at the 2010 VMAs. 32 and still growing up now. And critics and the public had mixed reactions to the knowledge that she was still thinking about this a year later. So the heart on her sleeve began to be a sticking point. On Reputation, we saw the emergence of nasty Taylor Swift. That is, the vengeful Taylor who has a baseball bat and rides a motorbike and stuff. You know, she's badass. Of course, we'd gotten a taste of that with Bad Blood on the previous album, and in some ways that's still the tough Swift. And honestly, what better illustration of the ineffectiveness of this persona for her? I'm not a Bad Blood hater, but this video, which amounts to a parade of famous supermodels in bondage gear doing slow-mo walks away from explosions, is just too much for me. Sorry, but I don't want Cara Delevingne to look at me like that. Ladies, just stop gazing at me. Reputation was an album written to express her anger and bitterness, and you can feel that genuine emotion oozing out of it. It fell somewhat flat because, well, the cool girl image didn't necessarily gel so well with that sense of true, inescapable pain.
I felt really bitter. I felt, sort of like a wounded animal lashing out.
Still, the album oscillates between desire and anger and hopeless self-pity in sometimes beautiful ways.
Listen for the best. My reputation's never been worse, so you must like me for me.
Elizabeth Taylor feels like an extension of this side of Taylor. The song explores a vague, looming sense of scrutiny associated with mega fame through Hollywood iconography, and at times flat metaphor.
All my white diamonds and lovers are forever in the papers, on the screen, and in their minds.
It's a more muted approach to the relentless negative side to being the most famous woman in the whole world, and for this song, maybe more than any other on The Life of a Showgirl, maybe just because I like it, I want it bigger. I want it to sound huge and beefy and daunting. I want to experience fear and danger. I want Elizabeth Taylor to emerge as a shiny yet evil diamond, but instead, it's understated. The verses are lilting and slow.
All the right guys promised they'd stay.
As if to reflect a sense of numbness to the heightened yet stale glamour. I do, however, like this song after the initial shock of the Elizabeth Taylor flourish. After one has recovered, it reveals itself as one of the better ones. The album is front-loaded. The two interesting songs that seem like obvious first single picks are right there at the start, and then we step away from the keyboard in a big way. It's the chorus that really elevates this song. I love the line, "Be my NY when Hollywood hates me."
Be my NY when Hollywood hates me.
It's very Lana Del Rey sleazy Americana, and I love this big piano smash.
I cry.
Bong, dong. It does have some choice lyrical blips though. This line is way too crammed in.
What could you possibly get for the girl who has everything and nothing all at once?
You didn't need to say all of those syllables. One can imagine an ideal Taylor Swift here. A Taylor Swift who has fun. A Taylor Swift who leans into her taste for the Pinterest glamorous. Getaway car.
Track 3, Opalite.
Track 3 is where the album starts to enter its lull.
Now the sky is Opalite.
We started off with these two big songs with glossy production and a tasty dark tone, but now the album shifts into a strange, half-baked guitar sound for a bunch of songs, and I just don't really get it musically. It feels like I've just rolled down a hill into the sludge. I do like the continued darkness that lingers in the verses. The opening lines are thoughtful and particular and nicely miserable.
I had a bad habit of missing lovers past. My brother used to call it eating out of the trash.
The chorus, however, kills this song for me.
And that's when I told you it's alright. You were dancing through the lightning strikes.
It's just so dull. There's nothing to latch onto musically or emotionally. It's just like, I was feeling fine. Everything is cool. That's what it sounds like to me. As we go on, it'll become clear that this sort of muted, contented vagary is at the very core of this album. And it's really this far more than the easy to pick out cringy lines or muddled theming or sense of distance from the listener that makes it a low Taylor Swift album. She's talked a lot about how this is the album she wanted to make.
This is the record I've been wanting to make for a very long time.
But it feels ambitious and stiff. It feels closed off. One top comment on the Opalite lyric video reads, "This album is for the happy people. We're done being sad and depressed." This has been a common reply to criticism of the album. You just don't want Taylor Swift to be happy. You just don't want Taylor to smile and giggle. Now, I can't speak for you, dear audience. Some of you are hatred-filled, but I don't mind Taylor Swift smiling and giggling and kicking her feet and so on. I like it, in fact, when she writes a joyful tune. Can't spell awesome without me. Not that one. But the thing about Opalite and the album at large is that they aren't happy, at least not solely. They're a little, there's something in there that's a little bit creepy. Sure, the song is about finding your person and having your past struggles melt away. But the song still lingers on those struggles. The song still defines that happiness in relation to the difficulty of finding it. Taylor might be happy, but she's still talking about lingering sadness, and that didn't magically make the song good. Let's compare this song to So High School. This is a track from the Tortured Poets department that's also about loving Travis and chilling with Travis. You know how to ball, I know Aristotle. But there's so much more going on with its construction. The quick rhymes in the pre-chorus that have this frenetic, heart-fluttering progression. And then the blink of a crinkle and I am sinking our fingers entwined into the gently soaring chorus. Watching American Pie with you on a Saturday night. And then the drop to that low, conspiratorial refrain. There's a complexity here that earns that feeling of relief and subdued delight. You know, we build to that. Opalite lacks that kind of varied musicality to the point that it sounds empty and corporate. It sounds like a Sainsbury's advert. This festive season, get 12 mince pies for only $4.99.
Track 4, Father Figure.
The next song is Taylor Swift's latest drag king moment, another chip to add to the mountain of evidence that she is gay for real. The galas are right.
For those who know Taylor Swift and have followed her for a long time, this damsel in distress role, this oh Travis, you're so handsome even though you don't know any words role, it's giving very fake.
And it's a song about being a creepy man. This is Father Figure, and I have to be real with you. I like that we can now enter the zone of narrative storytelling. I showed you all the tricks of the trade. All I ask for is your loyalty. Ooh, I'm the bloke. Ooh, I'm the spooky, creepy bloke. It feels more lyrically dynamic, but musically, it's another boring clanger. Whose portraits on the mantle? Who covered up your scandals? And I can't understand why it was put next to Opalite, because it really gives the immediate impression that the album has its two good songs up front and then they fall away to reveal that, oh my god, the entire Chewy Center is one big forgettable B-side. And it's a shame because there's an idea here, but she already did a better version of this kind of thing with The Man, which despite a kind of BuzzFeedy sheen is certainly a better song. I'm so sick of running as fast as I can. Wondering if I'd get there quicker if I was a man. Now, I don't mind the line about having a big juicy rod. I can make deals with the devil because my day's bigger. You know, she's being Goodfellas. She's being The Godfather. If anything, I think she's holding back. Go more nasty, I say. Write more lines about having huge, dangling, big, huge, round, clanging balls. The album is called The Life of a Showgirl. Why not go full sleazy mode? But no, this is a creepy whisper song, and I get that. I understand it. I protect the family. but it doesn't work for me. I need some heavy-duty grunts and screams, I need some drama, I need to be woken up again in the middle of the album. Help me.
The first line of the second verse says, I pay the check before it kisses the mahogany grain.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's my favorite type of writing, right? Where you have to think about, wait, what do those words mean?
Track 5, Eldest Daughter.
Our fifth song is Eldest Daughter, and I'm sorry to tell you, it's another boring song.
I have been afflicted by a terminal uniqueness. I've been dying just from trying to seem cool.
3 dull, sleepy tracks all squished together here. It doesn't make sense, I don't understand it, but the slab of beige is here, and we must deal with it, we must accept it, we must slurp it up, and make some sense of it. This one immediately creates a horrible fight within itself because it's a slow, saccharine, serious tune all the way down, but it also starts out with some filth.
Everybody's so punk on the internet.
This kind of thing can work, but it needs to fit. The contrast between the cautious, sad girl tone and the goofy Discord server venting needs an angle that will allow them to occupy the same space. We need an in to avoid that feeling of pure, incomprehensible cringe. Audrey Hobart, the new angel of music in my heart, sings about being 420 blazed in her song Thirst Trap.
I spend the days 420 blaze just thinking what's he gonna do.
And it works because the background plants us firmly in hyper-online contemporary culture, and because when she says it, it's a little bit goofy and confessional. The song contrasts this kind of flippant, I'm a bit silly line with more introspective, poignant storytelling. It's a disarming, relatable, cute line that serves a distinct tonal purpose. The hundreds of mirror selfies she sings about taking are funneled into this beautiful conclusion at the end of the song, which transforms the pathetic details of the scenario into a touching, euphoric epiphany.
I once read that some people's beauty can't be captured, and he'll be sorry, happy ever after.
It's joyful, it's transcendent, it's Audrey. Taylor Swift's mega online lyrics in Eldest Daughter struggle to fit there partly because this is a dead serious somber song about being a really good person.
I'm never gonna leave you now.
There's nothing particularly revealing here, just a sort of empty, sour view of the online world. And that's fine, there's nothing inherently objectionable about a song about how online is nasty. But there's something so empty about lines like,
sad as it seems, apathy is hot.
There's something so thoughtlessly self-pitying about, I'm not a bad bitch, and this isn't savage, but I'm never gonna let you down. Come on, come on.
But I'm not a bad bitch, and this isn't savage, but I'm never gonna let you down.
It comes off as an oddly simplistic and closed-off perspective, and it takes its comment as special lyrics so deathly seriously that it pushes the listener away. There are endless songs commenting on fraught relationships with fame and criticism, from Lindsay Lohan's Rumors to Jade's phenomenal Angel of My Dreams. This has always been a tough topic just because you're relaying it to an audience of people who can't relate at all, but it can be done well. One element of Angel of My Dreams that really makes it work is the total commitment it makes to expressing both the unbearable frustration and the sheer unmatched bliss of being a pop star.
Angel of my dreams, I will always love you and hate you, it's not fair.
These emotions feel real, but Jade is also telling us, yeah, this is all a bit unhinged, isn't it? In contrast, it just feels weird to watch the most successful musical artist there is focus on being a downtrodden, woe is me Twitter user. There's a sanctimonious edge here that I just don't want to hear.
But I'm not a bad bitch.
Let's not say stuff like bad bitch anymore. Let's just not say it. I don't want to hear you say that. There is one part of Eldest Daughter that I really like, however, and it's this fluttering line.
We lie back, a beautiful, beautiful time lapse.
This evokes a little butterfly flitting through one's hazy memory, and I like that. It calls back to the lyrical density and melodic swiftness of her early work. It has this light, bright melodic movement to it, and I just wish more of the song felt that way.
Track 6, Ruin the Friendship.
Speaking of early work, the next song is a real throwback with an immediately much more interesting melody, Ruin the Friendship.
And it was not an invitation.
this is the song to include from the slow song Puddle at the center of this album. It has a bit more of an interesting melody than the others, and it has the specificity that I've been missing.
Gallatin Road and the lakeside beach, watching the game from your brother's Jeep.
I'd prune the track listing of all but this one from this group. Get these out of here, but we can keep this one. This really feels like an early Taylor song because, number one, it's about a high school non-romance, check.
Don't make it awkward in second period.
Number two, it's a pining song, which I've missed.
But your girlfriend was away, should've kissed you anyway.
And number three, there's goofy lyrics in here that fit the song. I really like the line, have fun, it's prom.
Have fun, it's prom.
It's a quick slant rhyme. It conveys the idea very quickly and simply that this past version of herself should just let go and enjoy. And I don't know, it just feels cute. Have fun. It's prom. The other goofy line is more awkward.
That is the 50 Cent song play. Should've kissed you anyway.
But I think this is the song to include this kind of thing on. You know, yes, it pales in comparison to Miley's And the Jay-Z song was on.
And the Jay-Z song was on.
But it makes sense here. We're in 2007 or whatever. The 50 Cent song is playing. Maybe it could have been stronger if she just said Candy Shop, but you know, I'm okay with it.
Shorty says she feeling my style, she feeling my flow. A girl from Wooded, they buy and they ready to go.
Musically and lyrically, this feels more thoughtful and varied than the three songs preceding it, and I like this vocal that cuts into the end of the last chorus, urging the listener to cast off all reservations and pursue their desires.
My advice is always ruin the friendship. Better than regret it for all time.
Finally, some spirit. This is so emblematic of the Taylor Swift ethos, the intense romanticization of all things yearning, all things regretful, all romance-related griefs and miseries, and so it works. It gets at the heart of something she's actively passionate about forever and always, doomed and imaginary romance. This was so much of Fearless and so much of what made her popular, that slightly dark, diaristic teen girl madness.
I was a dreamer before you went and let me down.
Ruin the Friendship isn't a total return to form, it's no Breathe.
And I can't breathe without you, but I have to.
Anyway, the album is about to get much more interesting.
Track 7, Actually Romantic.
The seventh song is Actually Romantic, a smug, preening, desperate attempt at a hater anthem, and this more than any other song has fallen completely flat with listeners.
Some people might be offended, but it's actually sweet. All the time you've spent on me.
As I've mentioned, Taylor has never really pulled off her attempts to be badass because, well, she really, really, really cares. And this is the epitome of that. This is embarrassing. Its opening lines are,
I heard you call me boring Barbie when the coke's got you brave.
That's a reference to famed cocaine user Charlie XCX.
High-fived my ex and then you said you're glad he ghosted me.
That's a reference to famed Ratman Matty Healy.
Wrote me a song saying it makes you sick to see my face.
That's a reference to Charlie's song Sympathy is a Knife, which deals with her awkward and uncomfortable relationship to other women around her in the music industry, pinpointing her irrational feelings of envy and self-hatred pertaining to one person in particular.
This one girl taps my insecurity,
which has been popularly interpreted to be about Taylor.
Fingers crossed behind my back, I hope they break up quick as I.
Oh my god, she's talking about Matty! This is the popular understanding of what's going on here. It's hard to know quite how true all of this is, but the public has latched on and we must go with the public. Sympathy as a Knife is a pretty complex, self-aware, bold song that expresses the shame of comparing yourself to other women, and while clearly she does feel some real distaste for the woman she references, the song is more importantly a lament. Why am I feeling this way? Asks Charlie. Why do I want to kill myself?
Why I wanna shoot myself.
While it's likely that the real-life relationship or relationships Taylor is referencing for this have more to them, and indeed perhaps she's experienced much more outright antagonistic behavior than conspiratorial crunchy boyfriend high-fiving and a vague diss, actually romantic, when given this context, feels truly insane. The song is largely an I don't care letter to its target, and the concept is essentially, aw, how sweet you are to think of me all the time because you hate me, you cute little thing.
But it's actually sweet, all the time you've spent on me.
You're so adorable.
I know you think it comes off vicious, but it's precious, adorable.
This thinly veiled, intensely smug sarcasm that culminates in a supremely embarrassing humiliation ritual in the form of Taylor invoking the moisture levels of her vagina.
It's kinda making me
It's one of the most talked about things on the album, obviously. I really don't know what she was thinking with this. It feels so forced and only serves to underline just how clear it is that she's not experiencing pleasure, sexual or otherwise, here. She's not chuckling with mirth and glee. She's undoubtedly feeling really hurt and bothered about being rejected by pop's #1 cool girl, which would be a completely understandable, normal reaction in private, but becomes a desperately out of touch and pathetic loser moment via its translation to this song.
No man has ever loved me like you do.
The #1 problem with an I don't care song is making it clear that you do care so much. Beyond that, this is one of the most musically deflated songs on the album, and that is saying a lot. The instrumental is so nothingy that I almost wish she'd gone full a cappella in a church or something.
It's actually romantic. I really gotta hand it to you.
It's a few low chords repeated, boring verses followed by boring choruses, with the most interesting part being the bridge, because it's the only heightened moment of the song.
You think I'm tacky, baby? Stop talking dirty to me.
But then that's drowned in sheer cringe.
It sounded nasty, but it feels like you're flirting with me.
Just stop it. Just say no. It adds another layer of humiliation because the song she appears to be responding to sounds like this. Taylor's song sounds like this. But the song Taylor got mad at sounds like this. While Taylor's song sounds like this.
Some people might be offended.
Why did no one in her life tell her to scrap it? You can keep some thoughts in your head. You don't have to say everything. But if you do unleash your worst impulses, the song has to at least be cool. This is a whoopee cushion fart of a comeback.
Track 8, Wish List with $2 as the S's.
This song is about how everyone has a wish list, i.e. everyone wants stuff, everyone has their dreams and desires, but me, Taylor Swift, I just want my man.
I just want you.
Ladies, I just want my man. Ladies, I just want my man. So I'm gonna be with my man.
Things like Wish List I found very emotional.
It's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, that one literally
I'm really happy
got
that you
me.
liked that one, because
Yeah.
that was like the one that made me know we were done with the record.
I guess this is a gentle, joyful respite from the previous song's unwieldy antagonism, but I'm on edge. I'm still reeling. And this song, oddly, seems to be too. It's not just an I Love My Football Man song, but it's framed around comparing Taylor's desire, simple, pure, want my guy only, to the desires of the masses.
They want that yacht life under chopper blades. They want those bright lights and Balenci shades.
Taylor talks about this song like the pre-chorus.
And they should have what they want. They deserve what they want. Hope they get what they want.
Describes a genuine sentiment towards other people getting whatever it is they wish for. But the verses paint a picture of greed, frivolity, and fickleness. That's not simple well-wishing, I have my dreams and you have yours. It's condescension. She's judging. I can smell judging. Like a cartoon pie, I can smell judging, and I smell it here. You can write a song about letting go of more materialistic or crazed dreams because loving someone satisfies you. It's a theme that many songs have been written about, after all.
Some people want it all, but I don't.
But but this one feels half-baked and judgmental. Okay, Taylor, you got me. I want a Grammy just like you. I'm sorry. It's interesting to me how the blissed out songs on this album still have negative tinges to them. While Wishlist conveys this somewhat holier-than-thou tone, the Fate of Ophelia takes the delight of her relationship with the Travis and uses that to pinpoint a lingering craving to escape from the murky world of lost love. Opalite is a relatively straightforward celebration of finally finding someone, but lingers on a remnant of the melancholy of the past. The Life of a Showgirl is touted as an album about contentedness and joy, but in many places that aspect feels like a thin layer atop a cake of many pains. This is all to say that really, I can imagine an album that was less reserved with all of that and that more boldly explored all of those uncomfortable emotional geodes inside the big hulking rock of her current Travis bliss. It doesn't have to be dark or sad or even particularly complicated as a whole, but it could have stood to be more layered, to really interrogate something through the lens of the relationship she's so high on and out further into the purported theme of artifice and the relationship between a public performer's persona and her uncomfortably human life. As it is, the theme presented by The Life of a Showgirl, the showgirl aesthetic itself, is thin. But forget that for now, because track 9 is the most pure Travis-loving song. This one is called Wood.
Track 9, Wood.
Wood. Nice!
The song is called Wood for two fun reasons. The first is that it's about superstitions, including knocking on wood. I gotta knock on wood. And okay, I like this narrative device. We hear about a bunch of superstitious behaviors and then we throw them all out in joyous delight because with the right person, after all, you ain't gotta knock on wood. Never did me any good. I ain't got to knock on wood. This is a really cute sentiment, and I think the purest outpouring of love on the album. I really like the idea of casting off your long-held superstitions because the person you love has made you feel like you are beyond luck. Seems to be that you and me, we make our own love. The second reason is that it's a penis worship song. It's a song about loving Travis's huge, amazing redwood. Redwood tree, it ain't hard to see. I know you've all heard about this. You're scandalized, you're shocked. She's like, I love that chunky thing, whatever. Girls, I don't need to catch the bouquet to know a hard rock is on the way. I don't hate it simply because in this instance, it's cheesiness in the exact space where it belongs. The line that does cross the threshold into the cringe zone for me, though, is his love was the key that opened my thighs. Okay. We're kind of leaving the euphemism zone and getting direct, but it's also like I'm 12 and I know about people opening their legs. I always think when it comes to things like this that Taylor should either completely scrap something or go way harder. She's like, he touched my noo-noo with his special branch. Taylor Swift, say he went into your big vagina and he found a bunch of gemstones in there. The song is, I must admit to you now, dear viewer, in my top 3 from this album, and that is purely because it is funky. It's so jubilant and funky and bouncy. I love the soaring chorus. I love the sheer movement happening here. I love the way she makes fun of her past self on the chorus for clinging to superstitions. Never did me any good. I ain't got to knock on wood. It could be the best song on the album. I'm saying it. I think the Travis Kelce Big Dick song could be the most inspired and most sonically exciting song on this album. But it could stand to be more funky. The album overwhelmingly says to me, subdued. It is a subdued, low-volume, relatively flat album, and I wonder what a more dynamic mix could have done for it. And this song is where I feel that the most, because it's good. What if it was just bigger, crunchier, more trumpety? Ray recently released the sensational song, Where Is My Husband? Need you to tell me! And this song is so big, so frenetic, so filled with energy and movement. The drums, the backing vocals, the brass, it all builds up into this beautifully hurried, glorious track that absolutely oozes desire and pleasure and playfulness. I can never doubt it until death I do. Is he a bite? This man is testing me. The way she ends with this crescendo where she's chanting, yes, yes. It's so perfect, so real, so delightful. Yes, 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 yes. And uses this wonderful retro theming to complement the big band musical style and the glamour and wonder of these big feelings. Brown eyes and a grown fit if he doesn't find And Taylor isn't Ray, but nevertheless, for a song going for this funky, huge, Motown-flavored sound, it's a touch too small.
Track 10, canceled, but it's in all caps with an exclamation point at the end.
Okay, we're moving into the new zone. We have 3 post-penis brag songs awaiting us on the album, and the first is Cancelled. This song is, shockingly, about being cancelled.
Beware the wrath of masked crusaders.
And being friends with people who are cancelled.
At least you know exactly who your friends are. They're the ones with matching scars. Welcome to my underworld where it gets quite dark.
What are you, a Scooby-Doo villain? This is my least favorite type of Taylor song. The attempt at being badass, the attempt at being a little scheming demon, it just doesn't work. Well, I would say that Actually Romantic is the worst song on the album. This one comes a reasonably close second because it's just so tragic.
Did your girl boss too close to the sun?
It feels outdated and gauche to reference cancellation in this way. It stops mattering how justified you are and rapidly becomes the least relatable thing in the world. I like my nasty, stinky friends. Okay. The song approaches the concept of cancellation with 2 distinct ideas. The first is that the cancellation she speaks of is really just a convenient funnel for misogyny.
Did you make a joke only a man could?
Maybe primarily against all of us sexy type women.
Tone deaf and hot, let's fucking off her.
And the second is that being cancelled confers upon you a kind of cool status. She likes her friends cloaked in Gucci and in scandal, i.e. being a nasty type woman is glamorous and slay. These 2 ideas crash into each other with the line, everybody's got bodies in the attic, or took somebody's man. Because at that point it's like, wait a minute, no they don't. The conceit of the song is that women are unfairly deemed moral write-offs, right? They're cancelled for completely unfair, often sexist reasons. But then if those reasons are in fact that you legitimately harmed others, i.e. you have the proverbial bodies in the attic, the stolen men, that muddies the waters, doesn't it? It seems like actually my nasty ladies did do something we could call morally questionable, and I don't care. So it kind of ruins both ideas there. The misogyny angle is somewhat weakened by the I'm rotten to the core, rotten to the core shtick.
Like my whiskey sour and poison thorny flowers.
Poison thorny flowers? Are you Mal from Descendants? Are you Mal?
They say I'm evil, and that makes me glad.
The song is not interested in expressing that there's no perfect victim. It's just kind of undermining its own swag. Many of the lyrics here are unbelievably childlike, which when combined with this dark tone, this whole welcome to my twisted mind thing, creates a beautifully pathetic, toothless song. There are ways of expressing this kind of anger and resentment, taking glee and nastiness, and reframing being demonized in sexist ways, a thing that has absolutely happened to Taylor Swift across her career, that wouldn't come off as asinine, but this song is concerned with channeling the spirit of an aggrieved 13-year-old Tumblr vague poster, and it just doesn't have the musical boldness or theatricality behind it that could give it any chance of working. You know, again, too boring musically. Sorry. No one should be letting a song called Cancelled make it to their album at this point. Just stop it.
Track 11, Honey.
We have a few mean and nasty songs stacked close to each other on this album, and this is the last of them. Honey is in disguise as a cute love song about how it's nice to be called pet names by your little man.
You can call me honey if you want, because I'm the one you want. I'm the one you want.
But the song is really about a lingering, burning hatred for these terms because they've been ruined in your mind by previous passive-aggressive or insincere use.
And when anyone called me lovely, they were finding ways not to praise me.
So it's another I Love Travis moment that looks past him into endless memories of emotional wounds. And it's that woundedness that causes another emotional disconnect for me here, because it feels like Taylor is perhaps too close to her wounds and grievances on this album to allow them any breathing space. There's this feeling of candor without reflection that oozes from it. Listening to this song, I feel like maybe I'm the bitch.
And the bitch was telling me to back off, cause a man had looked at me wrong.
I feel like I am the bar bitch, you know? There's something compelling about this bar bitch. What's her story? What makes a self-pitying song good, I have to ask.
Somebody kill me.
What is it that really makes the expressions of suffering on this album feel distant to me as a listener of this album? Some of it is that songs are directed at a perceived enemy but lack the punch of righteousness or truly unhinged catharsis that would make them satisfying. Like for example in Lies by Pale Waves.
You caught in love, but it never had the feeling. Ripped out my heart and left it bleeding.
Or indeed, Shoulda Said No by Taylor Swift.
You should have said no, you should have gone home, you should have thought twice before you let it all go.
So these are real punch-the-air songs. Even on the Tortured Poets department, a relatively underwhelming album according to critical reception, I think she conveyed a greater, more visceral sense of pain and discomfort. Less with that explosive anger, and more with sheer lump-in-your-stomach wallowing. This was an album of deep loneliness and despair, and this is exemplified in my favorite Tortured Poets department song, I Look in People's Windows.
I look in people's windows in case you're at their table.
There's such a real sense of being lost here. The cautious guitar, the almost whispered, prayer-like vocals. You really feel like a piece of dust blowing in the wind. It works. Oh my god, she is so sad. I love the line, I attend Christmas parties from outside.
I attend Christmas parties from outside.
It situates the song so beautifully in time and space and communicates that she's almost not in her own body anymore. She's too sad.
What if your eyes looked up and met mine one more time?
I love that. Here it's as if she's still hooked onto the same lingering Velcro strip of black hole misery that populated TTPD, but is placing this veneer of settled bliss over the top of it.
Redefine all of those blues.
And you could call that the aesthetic theme of the life of a showgirl, I suppose. Taylor Swift is certainly interested in this idea of persona and performance and glamour and the tragic, exploitative, lonely underbelly of it all, but ultimately it feels like little more than a Pinterest board. Maybe she sees herself in all complicated performing women. Maybe she just likes the showgirl look. Maybe she feels disconnected to her glitzy era's tour persona, or maybe she just got really, really into Sabrina Carpenter.
Track 12. The title track, The Life of a Showgirl, featuring Sabrina Carpenter.
Sabrina Carpenter!
Showgirls, what are they? They occupy a strange cultural position between downtrodden, exploited shell of misery in the shape of a woman and glamorous, alluring icon of femininity. Barry Manilow perhaps captured it best in his classic song, Copacabana.
It's a very sad story, folks. Her name was Lola. She was a showgirl.
Showgirls have long been a symbol of doomed glamour, given that in some respects they straddle the line between prestigious old Hollywood and seedy, passé strip club. This theme of the formerly beautiful, now destroyed and destitute woman is a popular lens to view showgirls through, and Gia Coppola made a weird film to this effect in 2024, The Last Showgirl. In this movie, Pamela Anderson plays a showgirl in her 50s whose unpopular show is about to close for good.
The decision to close the show has been a hard one to make. But it's been an incredible 38-year run.
I don't even know what I'm going to do for Christmas. I don't have this.
The movie has a lot of strange problems, but its most severe one is that it makes its protagonist a bumbling, spacey, thoughtless person, obsessed with the greatness of her show to the extent that she becomes kind of insane.
I mean, Las Vegas used to treat us like movie stars. We were ambassadors. For style and grace.
She's a buffoon. Hearing her snap at the other showgirls for auditioning for other supposedly seedier shows when we know that her show is just as seedy.
It's a spectacle with dancing nudes, but it's certainly not a nudie show.
Dancing nudes? Is that like a technical term?
It's such an infantilizing and odd character choice.
Stop, please. I can't anymore. I would never audition for a show like that. Never.
But the worst thing is that we don't really get into the head of this deluded character who loves being a showgirl to the very end. She's just this impenetrable showgirl bot. It's a bit like Whiplash in that the protagonist gets the fantasy ending, gets the spotlight, and in doing so appears to relinquish all humanity. But in the case of The Last Showgirl, it's just one more show at any cost.
But the costumes. The sets.
And this might be horrifying, but for that character, it's the purest, most incredible joy. Being a showgirl for one more moment becomes the greatest, most blissful dream, no matter that the show is over and she, I guess, won't be a showgirl after today. It's a strange, reverent depiction of showgirlism, despite how explicit it makes the destitution, exploitation, and humiliation of the role.
The iconic American showgirl. the Las Vegas showgirl.
The Life of a Showgirl, Taylor's title track, is inextricably linked to the cultural view of the showgirl.
Her name was Kitty. Made her money being pretty and witty.
It's one of the few songs that conveys a narrative, and so in that way it is a breath of fresh air. We get to hear a story. Hooray.
This story talks about love and passion and hatred and violence and murder and alcoholism and neurosis. I love story songs. I just love story songs, you know?
Musically, though, there are some things I don't like. I don't like these claps. Get those claps out of here. I'm sorry, I just want to hear a drum, okay? I don't want to hear claps. No claps, please. Thank you. I don't like the pretty and witty rhyme.
Made her money being pretty and witty.
I just think you should save the hickory dickory dock stuff for more than 15 seconds into the song at least. And I hate this awful rhyme.
They gave her the keys to this city. Then they said she didn't do it legitly.
Legitly? Legitly. Legitly. Okay. The song is sung through the perspective of a fan who visits Kitty, the showgirl, played by Sabrina Carpenter, at the stage door.
I waited by the stage door.
Tells her she wants to be a showgirl too, and receives a warning.
You don't know the life of a showgirl, babe, and you're never ever gonna.
You don't know the life of a showgirl, Kitty says. It sucks ass. The fan then, spurred on into her dream of showgirl life by her warped patriarchal family.
Her father whored around like all men did. Her mother took pills and played tennis.
Takes the advice not as a warning, but as a challenge. I took her pearls of wisdom, hung them from my neck. I paid my dues with every bruise. I knew what to expect. Despite the extreme suffering of the endeavor, the fan becomes a showgirl herself, and despite the dismal negative she was warned about, she loves it. Pain, hidden by the lipstick and lace, sequins are forever, and now I know the life of a showgirl, babe. Wouldn't have it any other way. So at the beginning, you might think that this song is a sort of glib fable about how fame and glamour is not what it seems, and how showgirls mirror a world of strict, repressive gender roles and accepted sexual exploitation. As the song unfolds, it becomes clear that we're not really that interested in interrogating the showgirl as a figure of sexual exploitation or femininity, but instead in using her as a straightforward self-insert fantasy. The trauma and suffering touched upon is not something to be interrogated, not really, but something to be endured for the sake of triumph.
And all the headshots on the walls of the dance hall are of the bitches who wish I'd hurry up and die.
The showgirl then is an arbitrary figure representing performance, woman style. The showgirl is really just a Taylor Swift. And yet she chose the showgirl, surely, because she wanted to include those references to the pain of it all. The symbolic squeezing of all that sadness into one perfect, sparkling, feminine gemstone. Copacabana also has this fable thing going on. Lola the showgirl ends up a drunk, lonely has-been, and Barry sings a warning to his listeners as the song ends. Don't fall in love. Taylor's song, on the other hand, relishes in the pain, making it a delicious, sparkling, evil jewel in the narrative. Do fall in love. Do suffer. It's all worth it. With that, the album fades out. We did it, folks. We heard the whole thing. Yes! It's been interesting to compare this album rollout and the general reaction to it to my beautiful memories of the rollout of The Tortured Poets Department. People seem to broadly think that album was middling, and then the 31-track anthology version dropped and diluted things further. I actually liked the long version more, but you know, as I'm sure many people do, I think I could whittle those down into the ideal 12-track release of my own discerning taste, and that everyone would surely clap. This could have been a solid, good quality, more musically diverse, more exciting album if all the songs from the anthology were viciously pruned and arranged a little bit differently. Looking over at The Life of a Showgirl and back to this though, I'm struck by the consistency and the vision of the Tortured Poets Department in comparison. There are so many discordant, jarring elements of The Life of a Showgirl. The clunky, childish lyrics, the abandoning of narrative for more genericized verses all around, the unsatisfying clumping of song types, the synths thrown out 3 songs in, beyond the odd fun chorus, one cute thematic concept, and the handful of lyrics that feel designed to make us grimace, this album feels boring and unfinished. When she describes the album as some kind of ultimate goal, the album she's always wanted to make or whatever.
This is the record I've been wanting to make for a very long time.
It just doesn't make sense to me. If we glance at her most recent albums, I think it's pretty clear that there's been a downward trend in quality. It really feels as if she cares less about making a really tight, cohesive, interesting, stylized, thoughtful album, and has shifted into more of an ethos of just throwing it all out there. But where before it felt like it was a matter of pruning, a matter of sheer editing, of some reluctance to choose the best songs and cut the rest, this feels like something else. These songs are disconnected, they're musically flat, they're mixed in a way that feels way too pared back, the bass and percussion is on the muddy side overall, and Taylor sings every song like she's worried a neighbor will hear her.
You wanna fight, you found it.
While there are plenty of disappointing lyrics throughout the album, and while I do think the shift away from the more prosaic lyrics that are present in much of her best work is a major negative of this album, the most crucial element of all, dynamic, satisfying musical composition, is just not there. And that, after all, is everything. There is no Showgirl without the show.
And maybe Taylor just wants to soak in that big bathtub.
But that's okay, as long as we're talking about it, right?
The rule of show business is if it's the first week of my album release and you are saying either my name or my album title, you're helping.
It's actually sweet. All the time you've spent on me, it's honestly wild. All the effort you put in, it's actually romantic. I really gotta hand it to you. Ooh. No man has ever loved me like you do.
Bye.